The Galactic Council chamber pulsed with confidence as representatives gathered to witness what they believed would be humanity's submission. Dozens of species whispered smug predictions, certain Earth would fold the moment pressure was applied. For years, the Council had treated humanity as an unpredictable newcomer, innovative, resilient, but ultimately inferior to civilizations that had mastered interstellar affairs millennia earlier. Their arrogance filled the air like static, and no one questioned the assumption that humans would comply with whatever ultimatum was placed before them. Their demand had been finalized hours earlier, portrayed as a stabilizing measure, though every delegate knew it was nothing more than forced subjugation disguised as protocol. Humanity was expected to surrender 3 frontier sectors, relinquish independent military AI oversight, and pay annual tribute measured in raw resources, an offering the Council justified as repayment for interstellar disruptions caused by human unpredictability. The chamber screens displayed projections showing Earth's immediate compliance, crafted by analysts who had never once considered human pride or resolve. When the human ambassador finally entered, his expression remained unreadable. He walked with unhurried precision, offering no greeting, no pleasantries, no diplomatic warmth. Only a calm presence, the kind that made seasoned council members shift uneasily. His arrival was followed by a subtle silence that felt heavier than any display of hostility. He set a small data slate on the central podium, tapped once to activate it, and stepped back without another word. The main display brightened to reveal a single sentence. Earth rejects your terms. At first, confusion rippled through the chamber, then erupted into derisive laughter. A senior counselor leaned forward, mandibles clacking in amusement as he mocked the audacity of a young species with barely 2 centuries of spaceflight. Others chimed in, calling the message reckless, childish, and diplomatically suicidal. They believed the humans must be bluffing, forcing their hand to secure better negotiations. None of them noticed that the ambassador hadn't moved, hadn't reacted, hadn't attempted to clarify or soften the message. When the laughter died, the council chair slammed the podium with a calculated thud, demanding an explanation. "This is not a negotiation," he declared. "Compliance is mandatory. Failure to submit will result in disciplinary intervention." He waited for the ambassador to backtrack, expecting fear or desperation. Instead, the human's voice remained steady, nearly emotionless, as he replied, "Humanity offers no further diplomacy." The room froze. Diplomats trained for centuries in interstellar politics recognized the significance instantly. For humans, diplomacy was never abandoned lightly. Every known record of human conflict showed a consistent pattern. They negotiated thoroughly, sought peaceful resolution relentlessly, and considered war the final, absolute last resort. If they had reached the point of shutting the door entirely, something fundamental had shifted, something irreversible. The Council's internal monitors instantly pinged with alerts as observers across the chamber transmitted the message back to their governments. Analysts scrambled to interpret the implications. Some whispered that humans must have miscalculated, that they couldn't possibly survive the consequences of defying the Council. Others, more cautious, remembered the Terran responses in earlier conflicts, decisive, overwhelming, executed with terrifying precision. The ambassador offered no elaboration. He simply turned and walked away, leaving the council in stunned silence. His departure carried an unsettling weight, the kind that suggested not a retreat, but a declaration already fulfilled. The doors slid shut behind him with a finality that echoed through the chamber. Debate broke out instantly. Some representatives demanded immediate sanctions, others insisted on a punitive fleet, while a smaller minority urged restraint, arguing that humanity's rejection might indicate hidden capabilities. Their warnings were drowned out by louder voices calling humans unstable, reckless, and dangerously prideful. Yet beneath the noise was a shared, unspoken fear. Every species present felt it, an instinctive understanding that humans did not make threats lightly. Their history had proven that when they stopped talking, they acted with absolute resolve. For the first time in decades, the Council's unity faltered. Their assumptions cracked. Humanity had not negotiated. They had not bargained. They had simply refused. And the galaxy, though not yet ready to admit it, sensed the truth behind that refusal. The humans weren't intimidated. They were finished being patient. The moment the human ambassador left the chamber, a cascade of alerts rippled through every communication hub connected to Earth. At first, Council technicians assumed it was routine diplomatic traffic, but confusion spread as system after system flagged the same anomaly. All active diplomatic relays between humanity and the Council were going offline simultaneously. Not disrupted. Not malfunctioning. Simply shut down with deliberate precision. Within minutes, every diplomatic channel, public, private, encrypted, and emergency, went dark. No explanation, no transition notice, not even a courtesy delay. The Council attempted to re-establish the links, only to find themselves blocked by sophisticated human firewalls that hadn't existed 12 hours prior. Long-range communication buoys reported the same result. The humans weren't jamming signals, they had withdrawn. The abruptness unsettled even the most arrogant delegates, who were accustomed to slow, predictable diplomatic shifts. What humanity had done instead resembled a species stepping back from the table and locking every door behind them. Attempts to contact human allies across nearby systems produced silence as well. These allied colonies had always been responsive, cooperative, and eager to maintain stable interstellar relations. Now, every one of them mirrored Earth's blackout, closing ports, disabling diplomatic arrays, and issuing automated notices that all foreign presence was suspended until further instruction. The rare unity displayed by human-aligned worlds only deepened the Council's unease. At the same time, human trade routes dissolved from navigation grids. Cargo vessels vanished from predictable shipping lanes, convoys ceased broadcasting identification signals, and every civilian transport corridor near human space abruptly rerouted inward. Council traders reported seeing human escorts guiding merchant ships away from standard lanes with silent urgency. To outside observers, it looked like a retreat. But strategic analysts quickly noticed the concerning pattern. Humans were consolidating, not fleeing. Internal Council communication exploded with speculation. Some claimed the humans were preparing to beg for new negotiations. Others insisted that humanity was collapsing under pressure. Yet military strategists recognized something far more alarming. This mirrored the early phase of a Terran war doctrine only activated during existential threat scenarios. A coordinated lockdown. A total sealing of borders. A sweeping evacuation of diplomats. Council ships sent to observe human borders encountered something unexpected. A lone human vessel, unmarked, heavily shielded, and completely silent, hovered at the edge of Terran-controlled space. When hailed, it did not respond. Only its central display activated, flashing a simple instruction in every known Council language. Turn around. Some Council members treated the message as an insult. Others took it as a warning. But the war faction saw it as proof of human fear and insisted on escalating. They argued that humanity was posturing, bluffing in hopes of avoiding tribute. According to them, humans lacked the strength to face a punitive fleet and had resorted to theatrics. Yet small signs grew harder to dismiss. Human embassies throughout Council space closed their doors within hours, their personnel departing without a single attempt to negotiate or clarify the situation. Local governments reported that human diplomats left behind meticulously organized archives, sealed offices, and no indication of planned return. It wasn't a withdrawal born of panic, it was a calculated disengagement. By the second day, the Council voted to authorize military pressure. Fleet marshals drafted deployment orders, convinced that humanity would fold once the Council demonstrated its capability. But just as the order circulated, a new transmission appeared on every encrypted Council line used for military operations. It originated from a human deep space buoy previously believed to be inactive. The message contained no threats, no theatrics, no posturing. Only 4 words delivered in a calm, formal tone. Diplomacy is now concluded. The Council fell silent. Those familiar with Terran's strategic history understood exactly what that meant. Humans didn't slam doors. They closed them quietly, decisively, and only once. And when they did, the next phase was never negotiation. It was action. Council space buzzed with urgency as the authorization for mobilization spread across every military network. Admirals, strategists, and high-ranking delegates gathered in war rooms lit by projection halos displaying human territory. Despite clear signs of coordinated withdrawal, most council leaders interpreted humanity's silence as hesitation. They believed Earth lacked the numbers to survive open conflict, relying instead on clever tactics and limited engagements. Their confidence bordered on delusion, fed by centuries of dominance, and an ingrained belief that no emerging species could rival their combined strength. Over the next 48 hours, the Council assembled the largest punitive force in its history. Thousands of warships converged at staging areas, ranging from nimble skirmish cutters to massive dreadnoughts capable of leveling continents. Engineers boasted that the Council fleet represented 10 millennia of perfected warfare. Officers exchanged predictions of how quickly humans would surrender once their defenses were overwhelmed. Yet beneath the bravado, dissent simmered. A handful of analysts, those who had studied Terran behavioral patterns, noticed discrepancies too significant to ignore. Human border patrols were not retreating chaotically. They were repositioning with mathematically perfect spacing, creating overlapping sensor nets and defensive grids no Council formation had ever encountered. Civilian evacuations occurred without panic, suggesting rehearsed contingency plans. The precision was unsettling, hinting at preparation far older than the current diplomatic dispute. One report circulated briefly before being buried. Simulations indicated humans had been mapping Council fleet movements for years. Their merchant ships, explorers, and diplomats had always traveled in patterns that placed them near key Council battle groups, border outposts, and supply lines. The report concluded that humans had been studying the Council's weaknesses long before tensions reached a breaking point. The document was dismissed as paranoia, and its authors were told to halt further analysis to avoid creating unnecessary fear. As the first Council Armada approached human frontier space, they expected resistance, skirmishes, interceptors, defensive outposts, yet encountered something far more disturbing. Outlying stations sat abandoned, powered down in perfect sequence. Listening posts displayed no life signs. Patrol routes showed no ships. It was as though the humans had anticipated every vector of approach and emptied the regions intentionally. Some admirals celebrated, believing the humans had fled. But the silence felt engineered. Scattered throughout the abandoned territory were decoys, transponders mimicking civilian traffic, metallic husks shaped like defense platforms, and false energy signatures designed to mislead even advanced sensors. Each one forced the Council deeper, though none admitted it aloud. A captured human merchant later revealed a chilling explanation. When interrogated, he calmly stated that humans did not fear the Council. They feared underestimating the consequences of misjudged restraint. Humans do not start wars, he said quietly. But when they prepare for one, they finish it. Meanwhile, deeper within Council command, more damning information surfaced. Archival teams found records from early human expansion, showing instances where humans had built infrastructure meant to be repurposed quickly in wartime. Fallback routes, hidden supply caches, encrypted navigation lanes, mechanisms designed to transform peaceful trade networks into strategic pipelines within days. No other species in the Council had adopted such dual-purpose planning on a civilization-wide level. Still, the Council's leadership remained convinced that numerical superiority would overwhelm any human tactic. They dismissed warnings, ignored red flags, and pushed the Armada forward. But by the time the First Fleet crossed into the inner frontier, even the boldest admirals felt the tension shift. Human space was no longer empty, it was guiding them. Every sensor ghost, every abandoned station, every decoy felt less like a retreat and more like an invitation. The Council slowly realized they were operating on a battlefield designed by someone else. And humanity, without uttering a single additional word, had already seized control of the conflict. As the Council's Armada advanced into the inner frontier, the tone aboard their ships shifted from confidence to unease. Sensor officers reported intermittent distortions, unusual gravitational fluctuations, and faint traces of energy signatures that didn't match any known human vessel. The admirals dismissed these anomalies as environmental interference, but the crews could feel the tension tightening like a pressure drop before a storm. Every kilometer deeper into human space felt deliberately shaped, as if someone had carved invisible boundaries guiding the fleet toward a predetermined path. Then, without warning, the Sol region lit up. Across multiple star systems surrounding Earth, dormant structures ignited with synchronized brilliance. Vast energy grids unfolded like geometric curtains, revealing layers of defense architecture no intelligence report had ever recorded. Platforms once believed to be mining facilities shed their outer shells, exposing armored nodes and emitter arrays. Space that had appeared empty suddenly shifted, as cloaked megastructures emerged from concealment with eerie precision. Council Command scrambled for explanations. Their analysts insisted these structures shouldn't exist. The material requirements alone exceeded Earth's documented industrial output. Yet the formations were unmistakably human-built, synchronized through encrypted networks the Council hadn't even known humans possessed. Every new emergence reinforced the realization that hit harder than any weapon. Humanity had been preparing for this scenario long before the Council imagined it. Moments later, drives across the Council fleet flickered. Navigation cores lost calibration. FTL engines cycled into fail-safe mode. Communication relays distinct and collapsed into static. Jammers had not been detected. Instead, a dense field of quantum interference enveloped the region, severing long-range links without directly attacking any system. The Council vessels weren't being disabled by brute force. They were being isolated with surgical control. While the fleet struggled to reorient, human ships appeared. They didn't arrive in massive numbers. They materialized in deliberate, coordinated strike groups, each positioned with startling accuracy around key Council formations. These were not the patrol craft the Council had grown familiar with. Their hulls lacked visible weapon ports, their silhouettes were sharper, denser, built with alloys that sensors struggled to read. Every ship moved as if guided by a predictive intelligence anticipating Council reactions before they happened. Council dreadnoughts attempted to lock targets but found their interfaces lagging, weapon solutions collapsing the instant they formed. Human vessels maintained distance, firing no shots, exerting no hostility. They simply prevented the Council from acting. When one admiral panicked and ordered a full broadside against the nearest human formation, the fleet's targeting systems froze, then instantly reset to standby mode. It became clear that the interference field didn't just block communication, it monitored every weapons system and override attempt. Humanity had entered the battle without firing a single weapon, yet held complete control over the environment. As panic spread, infiltration alarms rang across multiple Council flagships. Human special units, deployed through silent microvessels undetected by any scan, boarded command centers with swift precision. They didn't engage in reckless combat. They immobilized leadership personnel, secured critical consoles, and shut down fire control systems without harming the crews. Each action carried a message. Humans were demonstrating capability, not destruction. Then a universal transmission ignited across every Council frequency simultaneously. The signal bypassed every failsafe, cutting through the interference, as if it had been designed as the only allowed channel. The human president appeared, not in uniform, but in formal diplomatic attire, calm, composed, and unmistakably unshaken. "We offered peace," the president stated. "We sought cooperation. You demanded submission. You believed restraint was weakness. Your mistake was assuming humanity negotiates out of fear. We negotiate out of principle." The transmission expanded, showing dozens of Council battlegroups silently surrounded by human strike formations, each held in absolute check without a single casualty. "Now," the president continued, "you will witness the consequence of ending diplomacy with a species that prepares for peace long before it prepares for war." Human ships repositioned, not to attack, but to demonstrate undeniable control. Council officers watched helplessly as tactical overlays updated to reveal the truth. Every exit route was blocked, every reinforcement path disrupted, every strategic option neutralized. The message concluded with a final statement delivered in steady, unwavering tone. You sought to discipline us. Instead, you have been disarmed. And with that, humanity initiated the next phase. Total containment executed with precision no Council species had ever imagined possible. The Council's armada drifted in stunned silence, suspended in a web of human precision they could neither escape nor comprehend. Every attempt to re-establish command chains failed, every encrypted channel remained unresponsive, and every emergency protocol stalled before activation. What unsettled the crews most was not damage, there was none, but the absolute control humanity exerted without inflicting a single casualty. Their ships hovered nearby like watchful sentinels, unmoving yet impossible to counter. It felt less like a battlefield and more like a demonstration, one crafted with meticulous restraint that made the Council realize how thoroughly they had misjudged their opponent. Across multiple systems, the same pattern repeated. Human strike groups isolated Council battle groups, disabling their ability to maneuver while never crossing the threshold into destructive engagement. Attempts to launch reconnaissance drones were met with immediate, non-lethal shutdown signals. Even stealth vessels, previously considered undetectable, found themselves exposed by pinpoint scans. Human technology operated with unsettling anticipation, predicting every Council tactic as if the fight had been rehearsed beforehand. Meanwhile, on Council homeworlds, unexpected disturbances unfolded. Major command centers found their defense grids overridden by subtle intrusions that did not damage infrastructure but neutralized control authority. Human vessels appeared silently in orbit, one ship per planet, each positioned with precise distance and orientation. They made no aggressive moves, emitted no hostile energy spikes, but their presence was enough to bring planetary governments to a halt. Civilian populations panicked, expecting orbital strikes, yet none came. The humans simply watched, a silent reminder of who held the upper hand. The Council's political structure fractured. Delegates who had mocked humanity only days earlier now demanded immediate surrender. Others insisted on negotiations, but there was no active channel to reach Earth. Every diplomatic line had been deliberately closed before conflict began. Messages broadcast blindly into human space vanished into the interference field without acknowledgement. The Council's leadership realized the full meaning behind humanity's earlier statement. Diplomacy was ended, not suspended, and only humans decided when it resumed. Then, almost simultaneously across hundreds of systems, a new transmission appeared. It wasn't the Council reaching out, it was humanity speaking first. The message was identical everywhere, delivered in a calm, firm tone by a Terran strategic representative. Stand down. You are not our enemies. Your leaders are. This declaration unsettled entire civilizations. For centuries, the Council had acted as the ultimate authority in galactic governance. Now humanity was addressing the galaxy directly, bypassing diplomatic hierarchy entirely. The holographic feed shifted to show Council military infrastructure, shipyards, command hubs, weapons arrays, each one surrounded or neutralized by human forces without a single firestorm or bombardment. It was a display of dominance executed with surgical discipline. Within 48 hours, the Council's military capability collapsed. Not through destruction, but through immobilization. Human infiltration teams had seized key command protocols, leaving fleets powerless. Their ships were not wrecked but rendered irrelevant. The Council's war machine, built over millennia, lay intact yet unusable, an outcome no one had imagined possible. Desperation pushed the Council to finally request a ceasefire. This time, humanity answered. But the response was not an invitation to negotiate, it was a statement of consequence. This is not diplomacy, the human message declared. This is correction. You demanded our submission. What you received was restraint. Human fleets began withdrawing in perfect synchronization, leaving no occupation forces, no imposed governance, no territorial claims. They departed as swiftly and quietly as they had arrived, leaving behind a galaxy shaken by the realization that destruction had never been necessary for humans to win. In the aftermath, Council species gathered in emergency conclaves, reviewing every error, every assumption, every pattern they had failed to recognize. The conclusion was unanimous and deeply unsettling. Humanity had never rejected diplomacy because it feared war. It rejected diplomacy because it no longer needed intermediaries who mistook patience for weakness. Strategic doctrines across the galaxy were rewritten within weeks. Every major civilization updated its assessment of Terran capabilities. Scholars composed treatises to understand how a relatively young species had outmaneuvered the oldest powers without a single civilian casualty. Admirals studied human restraint more carefully than human firepower. The final ripple of humanity's actions spread quietly. Council archives, long guarded as instruments of power, were updated with a single new entry under strategic warnings. Never force diplomacy to end with humans. If they stop talking, the outcome has already been decided.